Alright, so I wanted to go over the Servobuddy, which is the Arduino / microprocessor based servo mixer that I'm developing. The idea being that you can read 2 input values and then write 2 output values based on any code that you write. So a couple things that are going to be included with the hardware are, the first is a voltage regulator. This is critical because RC systems typically run on 5 to 6 volts, and I imagine, I haven't put a scope to it, but I imagine that there's probably a lot of noise on the power line between the motors running and the servos running, and so I decided to put a 5-volt regulator in to hopefully smooth that out. And there's a couple smoothing caps on there which will again help provide clean power to the microprocessor. There are 2 optional LEDs. These LEDs are software driven, so digital pin 4 and digital pin 8 will be used to control the LEDs. So again, that's something you would have to call in code. You could leave these unpopulated and it wouldn't hurt anything, you just wouldn't have the ability to call on them. But if you wanted to save cost, or you just didn't want to use that functionality, you can certainly leave it out. And that's kind of the theme I've designed into the whole thing. There's certain components that are critical and that you have to have, but a lot of these inputs and outputs are optional, so it's completely up to you if you want to use them or not. I've also designed in 2 push buttons which are connected to digital pin 6 and digital pin 7. These are again software read. You would read them through code and you can use that to change the functionality of the device pretty much any way that you can imagine. But again, you could also leave them unpopulated if you didn't need them and you wanted to save cost. And likewise, there are 2 trim pots. These are 2 potentiometers that are connected to analog input 0 and analog input 1. Again, read through code, so you could use that to control different parameters. It's completely up to you on how you would use those. You can maybe make a mode select dial with one of them, or you can use it to adjust your mix. You could have built-in trims based off of that. Again, it's anything you can imagine and write with code. The idea is to get the hardware side of this down to something about the size of a postage stamp. And on the hardware side, this is a couple pictures of the hardware itself. The dimensions of it are currently 1 1/4 inches wide by 3/4 of an inch tall. That doesn't include the pins protruding on the right side, which are your 2 outputs. So I hope you've enjoyed this overview. If there's any feedback that anybody wants to leave me in terms of things I should add or change, ways to make it better, by all means. This is more or less my second draft of putting this together. I am going to order a couple sample boards through Batch PCB and probably build 1 or 2 of these to get an idea of how well they work and to start learning to work with the code. There's already example code out there on reading 2 inputs and writing 2 outputs, so the code's already there. You would just need to modify it to your liking.